Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. Today we have another lesson in Mega Goal 6. In the previous lesson, we talked about, or we had reading, which is the eighth skill in this unit. In this reading lesson, we started by talking about the meaning of the title of the essay, which is Happy Accidents. Okay, as you can see here, we have this shiny title, which is Happy Accidents. The word happy is known for each one of us. Happy is the opposite of sad, something that make you pleased and so on. Accidents means, or the word accident means something that you didn't plan for and it happened. For example, if you plan to do something and something else happened, that is an accident. Why? Because it happened unintentionally, okay? Or something you do unpurposely. This is called accident, okay? Like when two cars crash each other or hit each other, this is called an accident. Why? Because none of them planned to crash the other car, okay? So this is why it is called accident. But today or yesterday, we talked about happy accidents. Accidents that led to great inventions. In the first story, we talked about the penicillin and the creation of the invention of the penicillin by the Scottish scientist Alexander Fleming. We will talk now about the stories and some of the words or the new words in these stories. For example, we started by talking about the word accidents, and now we will talk about the word antibiotics, okay? The word antibiotics is defined as a kind of medication used to kill bacteria that cause disease. So we use antibiotics once we have harmful bacteria in our bodies that make us not feeling very well, that makes us ill. So the antibiotics is used by ill people in order to kill the bacteria. We have here the word disease. Disease means illness or sickness, okay? After that, we have the word experiments. Each scientist do some experiments in order to prove his hypothesis. For example, he say, I believe something is going to happen if we put A with B. Then he does an experiment, or she does an experiment in order to prove his hypothesis, okay? After that, we have some other words like prescriptions. The word prescriptions is what the doctor gives you, what the doctor writes for you, or the medicines the doctor writes for you so you can get from the pharmacy and so on. After that, we have here another invention, another happy accident. We have on the picture a mobile phone that is put inside a belt. In this story, something was invented accidentally. What was invented accidentally is a fastener. A fastener. What is the meaning of fastener? Fastener is something, is like a belt that can be used to tie things together. For example, when you get in the car, you use the seat belt so it can tie you up to your seat. We fasten the seat belt, okay? We fasten. The T here is silent. We fasten the seat belt, and they invented, or they discovered the way the fastener works, so they came up with the idea of the fastener. After that, we have the last story, which is about the post-it notes. As you can hear, the circled thumb, there is a post-it note. What is the idea of the post-it note? It is a scrap of paper. Scrap means a shortcut of paper. Shortcuts of paper. If we have a large paper, an A4 paper, then you cut it into small pieces. Those pieces are called scraps. In this picture, we have a scrap, but it is posted on the thumb. How is that scrap is posted on the thumb? By using the adhesive on this paper. How is the adhesive was discovered? We read this story together and we learned how the post-it notes were created for the first time. They also can be sticky notes, can be called sticky notes. So feel free to use either of them, post-it notes or sticky notes. They are both correct. After that, we are going to start our lesson today, which is writing. In this writing lesson, we are going to write our own essays about a story of something that happened to us, about an accident that occurred at a period or at a certain point of our lives. But before we start, let's have some refreshing questions that could help us writing our own essays. We have here, in exercise A, 3 parts. The first part, have you ever made a mistake that has turned out for the best? When, where, who has involved? All these questions are revolving around your own experience. So there is no right or wrong answer, and answers here will vary because each one of us have a different life. So answers here will vary. So the question or the first question or the answers of each question will not be the same. We will start with the first one. Have you ever made a mistake? Each one of us has done a mistake once or maybe more. But we are asking here about a mistake that has turned out for the best. When, where, and who was involved. We will read the text together and we will try to find out where did the incident take place, who was involved, and what was the outcome, and what impact did it have on the writer. We will focus on 4 things. Where, who was involved, what was the outcome, what are the consequences, what is the result, or what are the results of this mistake, and what impact did it have on the writer. Okay, number 3, is there an explicit description of the people involved? How old do you think they are? What kind of people do you think they are? Compare notes with a partner. So on the third one, we are going to focus on the people in this story. How do they look like? And other descriptions. Now let's go to this page and listen to the story together. The story here starts with, I was traveling to London and had just gone through security check at the airport. I want each one of you to pick up his or her pen. Listen carefully to the story. We will listen to the story twice. Then we will talk about this story and how can we write our own stories by using the outlining way and the chart in the following slide. Now let's go ahead and listen to the story.
Page 14. 10. Writing.
I was traveling to London and had just gone through security check at the airport. When I picked up my coat, it felt a bit heavier than usual, but I quickly put it down to fatigue as I had worked through the night in order to complete some work before I left. I checked the time and decided that it was far too early to proceed to the departure gate, so I sauntered about the duty-free section of the terminal, having a look at displays. I was examining a computer case when I heard the announcement. somebody had mistakenly taken a coat that was a lot lighter than his and requested that the person who might have accidentally taken the wrong coat meet him at the information desk. I did not take any notice at first, but when the announcement was repeated for a third time, I stopped and had a look at the label of the coat I was carrying. I had never seen it before. When I got closer to the information desk, I saw someone who looked vaguely familiar. I smiled, holding up the coat. He smiled back, pointing to my coat. We exchanged coats and introductions. Surprisingly, we shared the same family name. We decided to spend the time left before our flights working out possible connections over a cup of coffee. As it turned out, we were both descendants of the same family. We simply happened to be in different places at different times. We found the physical resemblance quite amusing. We could have been brothers or cousins. We have since kept in touch and have become very close friends, or relatives, if you wish. If I hadn't taken the wrong coat at the security check, I might never have run into my long-lost relative. I would not have known of the existence of someone who looked like me and carried the same name. I would have missed the opportunity to encounter an important person in my life.
Okay, now we will listen again to the story, then we will go forward to the following slide.
Page 14. 10. Writing.
I was traveling to London and had just gone through security check at the airport. When I picked up my coat, it felt a bit heavier than usual, but I quickly put it down to fatigue as I had worked through the night in order to complete some work before I left. I checked the time and decided that it was far too early to proceed to the departure gate, so I sauntered about the duty-free section of the terminal, having a look at displays. I was examining a computer case when I heard the announcement. Somebody had mistakenly taken a coat that was a lot lighter than his and requested that the person who might have accidentally taken the wrong coat meet him at the information desk. I did not take any notice at first, but when the announcement was repeated for a third time, I stopped and had a look at the label of the coat I was carrying. I had never seen it before. When I got closer to the information desk, I saw someone who looked vaguely familiar. I smiled, holding up the coat. He smiled back, pointing to my coat. We exchanged coats and introductions. Surprisingly, we shared the same family name. We decided to spend the time left before our flights working out possible connections over a cup of coffee. As it turned out, we were both descendants of the same family. We simply happened to be in different places at different times. We found the physical resemblance quite amusing. We could have been brothers or cousins. We have since kept in touch and have become very close friends, or relatives, if you wish. If I hadn't taken the wrong coat at the security check, I might never have run into my long-lost relative. I would not have known of the existence of someone who looked like me and carried the same name. I would have missed the opportunity to encounter an important person in my life.
Okay, now we have listened to the story twice. In the first paragraph, the author or the writer talked about the place. He said that he is in the airport. He was taking his coat and so on. So, number one, use the setting, the time, the place, okay? He talked about the place, then he talked about what he was doing at that time and what he was feeling. But but I quickly put it down to fatigue as I had worked through the night in order to complete some work before I left. He talked about his feeling. He talked about the place. I was traveling to London and had just gone through security check at the airport. And after that, he was talking about what he was doing. He talked here, I checked time and decided that it was far too early to proceed to the departure gate and so on. So he mentioned what he was doing. Then after that, something else happened. In the introduction, you can set the time, the place, and your feelings, your situation, okay? After that, you can, in the second paragraph, start by mentioning what or how realized your mistake or how this mistake happened. Here, he started with, I was examining computer case when I heard the announcement. So the announcement is the bell that told him about his mistake. Then he realized his mistake in the third paragraph, and in the fourth paragraph, the good outcomes or the positive outcomes of his mistake has shown. He found out that that person he has mistaken his coat with is his relative, and so on. So you can follow the same way, talking to or writing about the mistake that you have committed, then it turned out to be a good thing by following this order. And after that, you can summarize, or let's say talk about the good thing behind this story. For example, here he said, if I hadn't taken the wrong coat at the security check, I might never run into my long lost relative. I wouldn't have known of his existence, of the existence of someone who looked like me and carried the same name. I would have missed the opportunity to encounter an important person in my life. So in the last paragraph, you have the chance to write about the lesson or the outcome of this mistake. Okay? Also here we have another story. You can read it also to help you with more ideas that you can use to write your own story. Now we have here the outlining. We have 3 points, or we have 3 statements that could help you to organize your mind. Number 1, think of a mistake or an accident. This is number 1. It can be something that happened to you, someone you know, or a famous person. So an accident, it can be for you, or it can be something that happened to you or anyone you know. Number 2, did the mistake or accident work out for the best or not? Think about how things might have turned out differently if it hadn't happened. Use a chart to organize your ideas. Number 3, write a descriptive account of the event. Write about what happened as a result of the mistake or accident and speculate on how things might have turned out differently if it hadn't happened. Okay, we have a chart that has 2 columns. On the left side, what happened? This is the place where you will write what actually happened. Okay? Then on the right side, you will write about what might have happened if something went differently. Okay? So use this chart to organize your mind, to help you lay down all your thoughts and ideas about this mistake. Then you can go to the writing corner so you can benefit from the advices here and start after that writing your own story, or your story that talks about a mistake that you have done. In the writing corner, remember that when you write a personal account or a narrative, think about the people involved in terms of personality, physical characteristics, skills and abilities, behavior, feelings, and aspirations. Okay. Number 2, try not to restrict your account to a series of facts. Include details and description which will get your reader visualizing places and people and speculating, predicting, and anticipating what will happen next. As you might notice in the model text, factual sentences are interspersed with personal thoughts, comments, and feelings. Use, for example, number 1, use 2 different colors to highlight factual sentences or information and the writer's personal comments or thoughts and feelings. So we have, or we listened to different things. We listened to factual sentences or information, the things that happened, and the writer's personal comments, thoughts, and feelings. And this is something that I want you to be aware of, to distinguish the factual things from your own comments and feelings. And it is important to mix them together, to write the factual things and comment on them and express your feelings and thoughts towards them. The last point that is there a regular pattern? Why or why not? This is the last part of our lesson today. Thank you all for attending our lesson, and I wish you enjoy the rest of the day. Assalamu alaikum.